Well, hello. It says we're live, folks. That's right. What a grand new book we have here today, The Lives of Bees, The Untold Story of the Honeybee in the Wild by Thomas D. Seeley. Super, super excellent. Being a beekeeper or an assistant beekeeper, I learned a lot, and boy, I can see some of the mistakes that we made being a commercial production. Anyway, Thomas D. Seeley is the Horace White Professor in Biology at Cornell University. He is the author of Following the Bees, Honeybee Democracy, Honeybee Ecology, as well as The Wisdom of the Hive. He lives in Ithaca, New York. Now, he has studied since he was 11 years old. He's been 40 years in the field and has taught many, many people, and he's probably one of the most foremost uh, knowledgeable people in the field. So this guy he knows his business, and he's lived mostly in Ithaca, New York, around there ever since he was a child, and he's found a lot of hives and stuff in the wild. But he did come to Tucson, and he's done a lot of work around Arizona too, because Arizona harbors a lot of native bee species in the Arizona. There are so many mistakes that happen. In nature, bees like to be in a well insulated cavity, a thick walled, a certain size. They don't want huge 42 liters when they can have a size hole. They want a smaller hole. The reason why that they make bigger hives is so they can get more honey from them. Then they strip the broods off and the combs and they get rid of the drones so they don't swarm. But a bee colony has to have swarms in order to proliferate. And then, of course, if the new queen takes over the old colony, well, there's better survival. It's a fascinating, fascinating book. And it goes on and on. And he doesn't really talk anything about, except in the end, how to put some of the measures that he learned in the wild and found out to modern beekeeping uh, apiculture, apicultural practices. However, it's just amazing. Talks about how they got the mites in 90, the Varroa mites, the little red things that get on their bodies, but they figured out how in the wild to tame them down, and so they have better control and actually, and no miticides or miticides. Oh, it's just amazing. They like small holes. They want the hole at the top instead of at the bottom, or a small round hole. They don't want a hole across the bottom of the hive entrance. Propolis, I found out, is just resin that they go pick off of trees and smear or coat the inside to keep the water condensating from going into the wood, stopping up cracks for air drafts. It's just fascinating. And every bee only lives about 3 weeks. And they say, really, and there's another thing I read, not in this book, that the death of a bee is because they're overworked. But, anyways, there's water carriers and then there's water spreaders inside. And they have that abdomen that swells up. It's called their crop. It's a honey stomach, and they suck either water in there, nectar, or whatever, or they tank up on honey when they go swarm. It's a fascinating little individual, and there's several species, and somewhere in Russia, there's Italian bees. It just goes on and on and on. It covers every aspect of their physiology and ranges and genetics and all that. I just loved this book. I just loved it. Some of the things in the back that he gives out is some of the uh, closing thoughts. Well, he says allow colonies 10% of their comb as drone comb. He has several things that can be suggestions for Darwinian beekeeping. Work with bees that are adapted to your location. Roughen the inside of your walls or build them of rough sawn so they put up the propolis. Minimize disruption of nest structure so functional organization of each colony's nest is maintained. So it's just Just a sweet book. Dr. Seeley, you have outdone yourself now. What an authority in this world. Refrain from closing. His last words are, a second way we can improve the lives of honeybees is to revise our treatment of the millions of colonies that live not in the wild but in our hives. This is the goal of what I've called Darwinian beekeeping, and others have called natural beekeeping, apocentric beekeeping, and bee-friendly beekeeping. Whatever the name, the aim is the same, to put the needs of the bees before those of the beekeeper. This happens when a beekeeper's manipulation of the bees are done with bee-friendly intentions in ways that harmonize with the bee's natural history. Conventional beekeeping, however, continues to develop along a trajectory that disrupts and endangers the lives of honeybee colonies. Therefore, to truly help the bees, we must do more than just keep the world healthy for them. We must build a new relationship between human beings and honeybees, one that promotes the health of the millions of managed colonies that we depend on to produce our food. Darwinian beekeeping, which combines respecting the bees and using them for practical purpose, seems to me to be a good way for us to be responsible stewards of the honeybee, Apis mellifera, our greatest friend among the insects. Well, we got this book at the Tucson Pima County Library, and I hope you get it too. It's such a sweet, sweet book. I hope every beekeeper reads it. Thanks, and keep watching. Support us over at kraztv.com if you can. Keep reading, keep being bee. Show channel, bees.